Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. Earn 5 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. And with a welcome offer of 150,000 points after you spend $20,000 on purchases on the card within your first 3 months of membership, your business can soar to new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
Last week was our first playoff game, and my plaque psoriasis was so itchy under all my gear. Sometimes just thinking about scratching could take me out of the moment. And then my doctor told me I could get clearer skin with a pill called Otezla.
Otezla apremilast is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months.
Okay, ready for the next game. Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Severe diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla. Call 1-844-4-OTEZLA or visit Otezla.com for prescribing info about cost, and more.
The Dental Download podcast is your source for insight from conversations with fellow dentists, specialists, and leaders in the industry. With new episodes every Monday morning, I'm your host, Dr. Haley. Let's get into this week's episode. Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome back to a very special episode of the Dental Download podcast, because this is our 5-year anniversary. We are celebrating 5 whole years of the podcast. As of this week, when the episode is going up, we have made it through not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, 5 whole years of weekly episodes together. Some of you I know have been here from the very beginning of the show, which means we are approaching our 300th episode soon enough here. We've posted hundreds of episodes. We have hundreds of loyal listeners tuning in every single week, and that is just surreal. I didn't have specific, number goals when I started the podcast over 5 years ago. I truly just wanted a way to share advice that I had accumulated over my time as a pre-dental student, and the podcast just continued to grow with me throughout dental school and now into practicing as a general dentist for almost a year at this point. Time has truly flown by. So first things first, I am doing a very special giveaway over on the Instagram page for the podcast. So definitely head over to the Dental Download Instagram page to check out that. It's very easy to enter. You just have to be following the podcast there, and I will verify that you're following the podcast on the platform that you listen to once I pick the winners. But very simple to enter. You pretty much just comment on that post with a favorite memory or thing you've learned from the podcast along the years and tagging 3 friends, and that will count as your entry. And I'll be picking 2 winners, so you'll have to specify which part of the giveaway you're wanting to enter. But I'll be picking a pre-dental winner for a hour-long mentoring session. So we could go through anything that you'd like. That could be mock interview. I could review your personal statement. I could review the rest of your application. I can just give you Q&A advice, whatever you want to know. Basically, you get to pick my brain for an hour, however you'd best like to use that time. And then the other winner will receive a $100 Figs gift card to get yourself a new set of scrubs. So I'm very excited about that. So head over to, again, the Dental Download Podcast Instagram page to enter. It's only going to be open for about a week or 2, so make sure you enter right away. But this week's episode, we're keeping on theme with the anniversary, and we're going to be kind of doing some fun reflection of the 5 years. So I'm going to be talking about each year of the podcast and my favorite episodes. Some episodes I think were underrated, but really great content. If you want to go back and check them out, if they sound appealing to you, as well as highlighting some of those most popular episodes from those years. And then also just reflecting on life at that time, kind of the biggest milestone that I had that year of dental school or now working, some of the biggest lessons, takeaways, growth things of that year as well. And that's going to be kind of what we'll be running through this week. So we might as well jump right into it. Like I said, I started this podcast back as a pre-dental student and have been posting episodes every single week all throughout dental school and through now working as a dentist. And the mission pretty much stays the same. I really want to create a community where we are more empowered and educated towards being able to reach our goals in dentistry. And that's not only clinical. As you know, my podcast is not very clinical based at all. It's much more lifestyle, wellness, self-improvement based, I would say. And that's kind of where I see things heading in the future too. I wanted to touch on that a little bit, like what's next for the podcast. It's going to be kind of a continuation of a lot of the same that we've already been doing. There'll be guests, there'll be solo episodes. We'll be chronicling my experiences as an associate dentist, newly out of school, working through life as a female dentist, life as an associate, potentially down the line, life as a practice owner. Who knows, what's going to come in the future. But we'll continue that journey together. And my goal is that all of you listening that maybe have joined in years ago when I was a pre-dent, or maybe you joined in during the middle of my dental school experience. So many of you listen every single week, and that's so amazing. But a lot of people find the show by searching for advice for specific, mostly pre-dental topics. So my hope is just that if you come to Dental Download Podcast as a pre-dent, I hope that you choose to stick around throughout dental school and use these episodes as insight into forming your own vision for what you want your life to look like and how you want to practice dentistry and how you want dentistry to fit into your own life. By bringing on so many different guests, I give you that ability to see, yes, I love that. No, I wouldn't like that. I agree with that. I don't agree with that. I relate to that. I don't relate to that. And you can kind of curate what your own goals are going to be. And that's what I think is so special about all the different guests that we bring on the show. And that really helped me figure out where I wanted to be today and the type of practice I wanted to be in and what I was looking for during my job search, which we'll kind of touch on a little bit in this episode. But I hope you choose to stick around and continue learning alongside me as I'm also navigating life as a new dentist, which no matter what part of your journey you're in right now, eventually you will get into dental school and you will graduate dental school and you too will be a new dentist at some point. So eventually we're all going to be kind of on the same page together, and the podcast can continue to be a place for us to grow and learn together. So let's jump right into the first year of the podcast. So this was April, is kind of the inauguration, the beginning of the podcast. And that was April of my ending year of undergrad. So my senior year of undergrad. I had already been accepted to dental school several months prior, so I felt a little bit more confident to be giving advice on things like the application since I was already admitted at that point. But this also went through a full year. So it was also until April of my D1 year, which is almost the end of a full year of dental school. So I do have one of my most popular episodes of all time are still ones about the pre-dental things. So episodes 1 through 4 of this podcast are each year of undergrad. So freshman year, sophomore year, junior year. And then episode 6 is about the dental school application process. And episode 15 is about dental school interviews for specifically. And again, these are probably my most listened to episodes of the podcast in its entirety over 5 years. And another one that I think should have some more traction than it did, and I recommend going back to listen if you are pre-dental, is episode 29. I think it's an underrated one. It is about the do's and don'ts of shadowing a dentist. And I got advice from other dentists at the time since I was still a student. But I think that's really insightful if you're feeling worried or unsure of how to go about behaving while you're shadowing. So all of these, like I said, are still my most popular episodes, and it's awesome that so many of you come to the podcast at the pre-dental stage, and I just hope that you find motivation and enjoyment from these episodes, that you choose to stick around as you go through dental school and eventually graduate and move on to your next steps. So for that first year of the podcast, biggest memories of that time is really just being newly into dental school, starting dental school during COVID. So I can't say that's the happiest time for me. It was very, very challenging. But one good thing that came out of that year Well, there were obviously lots of things, but one of the best things was meeting my now fiance that year of dental school. And I do think each year of dental school, you grow a ton. I know I grew a lot as a person every single year, including D1 year, because I feel like dental school puts you through the ringer in so many different ways. So it's really crucial to start developing some kind of mental toughness and ways to separate what's going on at school or clinic with what you're taking on in your personal life and your mental health. And I have lots of episodes about that from this first year and my second year and my third year, like all of dental school. I probably made different episodes about mindset, mental health, all of those topics. But that kind of ties into my biggest takeaway of that first year of the podcast, which was, again, mostly D1 year. We can say that it's okay if your threshold for like trying to live your best life, doing your best is different as you go through different phases of life. As I said, D1 was very hard. It's very hard being back at the bottom of the totem pole, feeling like you don't know your way around. You don't know what's correct and what's not. You don't really know a lot of people. You don't know a lot of faculty. You don't really know where you're going to fit into this school yet. It's really hard having a rigorous class load. It's hard trying to make new friends and being in a new place. It's hard learning hand skills and doing dentistry for the first time ever. It's hard trying to navigate. This was another interesting thing at that time, like trying to navigate adulthood, but like a partial adulthood when you're still a student, but you have friends that might have graduated and went into working, and they're being like independent and living a life on their own terms while you're kind of stuck being a student. So there was just all kinds of weird emotions and a lot of feelings I remember from D1 year, but it got better. And it was, I think, a mix of COVID life and just D1 year. So it was a lot, but hey, we got through it, right?
This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was getting frustrated by your forms. Now, Taxes is uploading your forms with a snap, and a TurboTax expert will do your taxes for you. One who's backed by the latest tech, which cross-checks millions of data points for absolute accuracy, all of which makes it easy for you to get the most money back, guaranteed. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.
So good, so good, so good.
Get ready, because Clear the Rack is on at your Nordstrom Rack store. Now through Monday, find incredible deals on wear now styles. On sale for even less at Nordstrom Rack. Take an extra 25% off red tag clearance throughout the store from brands like Adidas, Marc Jacobs, Steve Madden, and more. All sales final. The best stuff goes fast. So shop this sale at Nordstrom Rack today. Please see NordstromRack.com or ask a store associate for details.
I can't believe it's already been 5 years since I started this podcast. And while I'm celebrating my podcast anniversary, there's another anniversary in the dental industry, ADAC Dental Equipment. They just celebrated 60 years. You've heard me talk about ADAC many times because they're known for designing and manufacturing some of the best equipment in the industry. It's in 85% of dental schools in North America, which means most of us have already practiced on it in sim labs. If it can endure decades of students, you know it's reliable. Well, adding to the unquestionable reliability, ADAC just enhanced their warranty from 5 to 10 years. This means even more peace of mind on your ADAC dental chair, delivery system, lights, cabinets, and stool purchases. Use the link in my show notes to see all the warranty details, because premium equipment deserves a premium warranty. So second year of the podcast was mostly my D2 year. So some underrated episodes from the second year of the podcast would be episode 60 on financial independence and debt repayment strategies from a public health dentist, Dr. Claudie Pascal. Again, that's episode 60. Another great one is episode 65 with Dr. Paul Goodman of Dental Nachos. And I also had a really unique guest way back when on the podcast. Episode 80 was actually a forensic dentist, which I want to have another forensic dentist on the podcast if anyone knows anyone, because that was so cool just to hear about like how dentistry has been used to solve some more famous cases in history, and just what a forensic dentist does and how you could get involved in that pathway if it interests you. So very, very interesting, unique topic. And then a couple more that were solo episodes that I think would be helpful if you're still in dental school would be episode 79, which was tips for dental school practicals, and episode 99, where I talked about specializing versus doing general dentistry and how that's going to change your dental school experience. And my most popular episode of the second year of the podcast was probably episode 67, and that was my why dentistry topic and talking about different avenues that general dentists can work in. So kind of the memory that I have of D2 is just knowing that it got better. I felt settled in. I found what things I liked to be involved in during school. Obviously, you have more friends at that point, and I started to find a routine that helped me be a little bit healthier through doing workout classes and meal delivery kits, since D2 was still a pretty busy, academically rigorous time of school. And the main takeaway with that is just like knowing that you're going to have a lot of challenges during dental school, but it does get better each year and you get more and more equipped and more mature and just grow as a person to better handle what life throws at you. And like anything that's challenging, which dental school is certainly challenging, is just making you a better, stronger person. Season 3, if we want to call it, year 3 of the podcast was my 3rd year of school. I have a couple underrated episodes I want to share. So this one was episode 108 with Dr. Jen Hole, and she talked about ways that you can earn money as a dentist that is not chairside dentistry. So she talked about ways that she's worked as like a consultant for different products. And I actually have several episodes, even with other guests, that also talk about this topic, whether that's being a broker or a product rep or a consultant. So lots of ways that you can have a dental degree but be non-clinical if that's something that you need or want to do as time goes on. And I just think, again, people don't know about that a lot. So it's nice to hear firsthand from people that have those experiences. Some really crucial episodes on mindset were also posted this year, and I think would be relevant to anyone to go back and listen to no matter what stage of dentistry you're in. Episode 121 talks about combating the pressure to be perfect, which is on so many of us in dental school, but also, even as working as a dentist. And then episode 123 is all about growth mindset and overcoming fears of whatever it may be, like being outside of your comfort zone. And that was episodes 121 and 123. And then I had a couple listener favorites this season of the podcast that still are some of my most listened to episodes. So episode 115 is titled The Reality of Dental School. And I just had different things submitted by fellow dental students through Instagram that were just like the hard parts of dental school that people don't talk about, or some of the good things, but just kind of funny little anecdotes from fellow dental students at the time. And then another listener favorite episode was episode 137, and that was titled Don't Become a Dentist If. And again, I used my community and colleagues to help me come up with the topics for that episode and things that might make you want to reconsider like going into dentistry in the first place if you're going into it with unrealistic expectations, we can say. So main memory of 3rd year is, of course, transitioning from sim lab into clinic, so real patient care. That was a lot of stress, not necessarily, like obviously it's a little nerve-wracking like doing your first procedure, but my clinic experience was so slow going that I wasn't so much stressed like, oh my gosh, I have to do a filling today. It was more like, will I ever get to do any fillings? Like it was taking forever for me to get busy in clinic and to be even having patients with needs that would fill up my schedule. So for me, it was stress, like wondering, am I getting enough experience, and being frustrated with the dental school system as a whole. I remember we still had some really challenging classes that year, so balancing that along with clinic was interesting. But I also had a lot of fun moments of your first time doing something that was a little bit harder and it going really well in clinic, like those good days where you have a win, and good memories of just like gradually getting better in clinic, starting to feel a little bit more comfortable as I went through
certain rotations like oral surgery, I remember I left that finally feeling like I was understanding and better at and more confident giving local anesthetic. And I also just remember overall, I took the INBDE towards the end of third year. So I do have episodes about that. If you want to just search INBDE Dental Download Podcast, those would come up. But that was kind of a notable high to end off D3, knowing that I was done with written boards and I didn't really have to study much anymore other than just like getting through my lecture classes. But we didn't have a lot of hard classes fourth year. So like that was kind of finishing off the year, taking those finals, taking boards, written boards, knowing that I passed. And like it just was a very nice culmination to like the end of main didactic things. And I think the takeaway for third year was just the transition into clinic really does bring and forces a lot of maturity and growth. You really are forced to toughen up your skin, toughen up your mindset, and also your perspective on if and how you're going to prevent dentistry from impacting the rest of your life negatively. Like having a negative patient experience or something like that, not letting it ruin your day, ruin your week, and just being better at problem solving, thinking on your feet, dealing with difficult patients in the moment, improving your communication skills, improving your maturity of not getting frustrated with faculty that are not treating you well or treating you fairly, and maybe feeling disrespected in clinic. Like all of those things happen, and it definitely develops a thicker skin, which only helps once it comes to working as a dentist in the future. So we're already on to year 4 of the podcast, flying through time. This was my 4th year of dental school. So this is where we began the job search saga. I have many episodes on this as well as a few YouTube videos. If you're also a D4 right now and going through the job search process, I think they would be extremely helpful to look at. So the job search episodes are 159, 163, 167, and 193. And again, my YouTube channel is my name, Haley Schultz. If you want to look at those job search specific videos, they would be very helpful as to where I looked for jobs, how I decided what I was going to interview, what are interviews like, how I decided between my different opportunities, which one I actually wanted to pursue. All of those things are in those episodes. But between searching for a job, going on external rotations 4 weeks a semester, and the end of dental school, getting ready and taking clinical boards, those were like the main dental things that stick out to me about that year because they were just always on the back of my mind and something I was always thinking of. I also had a really cool opportunity to be a part of ASDA National Council that year. So I was working with dental students from other schools rather than only being in leadership through University of Michigan's ASDA chapter. So it was a little bit different and it was a very, very cool experience that I have some really good memories from as well. So some underrated topics from D4. Episode 170, I think, was a really cool one. That was with a physical therapist who ended up going back to dental school to become a dentist and now focuses her practice on TMJ disorder. So again, that was 170. And then right after that, I actually had a more popular episode from this 4th year of the podcast. There was a couple that I wanted to highlight. If you haven't listened to them, when episodes are popular, that just tells me that it's a shareable topic. People are sending it to their friends. People think it's interesting. So if you haven't listened, it must be rather interesting if it had a lot of views. So that first one was 171, titled 25 Things They Don't Tell You About Dental School. And then another even more popular one was episode 181, which was red flags in a dental job search process. And that was not just my own opinion. That was submitted from lots of practicing dentists and people that went through that process themselves as well. Another underrated one, I want to mention 2 more for 4th year, is 178. If you want to know more about how dental insurance works, it's broken down really, really well with that guest of episode 178. And then 185, I think if you're any period of dental school, whether you're starting in sim lab or you're starting in clinic, this episode 185 is where I give advice for your firsts in dental school. So maybe your first written exam, your first practical, your first real patient, your first patient test case, whatever it may be. I gave advice for working through the feelings and nerves and things that come with those experiences. So fourth year, the biggest kind of memories or milestones was really just feeling so much clinical growth through those external rotations to the point where I did feel good about going into practice upon graduation, and also feeling like I was growing my communication skills very well through all the ASDA leadership I'd had, talking to different mentors and learning from them, as well as reading some good books at that time. And the main takeaway, like me saying I felt pretty confident, is like that balance again of confident yet humble at the same time. Like you only know as much as you know. So I did feel confident, but of course there was still a lot to learn. And it's very helpful that I had the mindset during clinic, as I've mentioned in many other episodes. Why I think I was able to graduate feeling confident was that I had that mindset during clinic that come May graduation time, I was going to be confident and wanted to be able to make clinical decisions without relying on help from mentors, generally speaking. Obviously, even now in practice, I love to get the opinion of the other docs I'm working with on certain things, but it's not that like I could not competently work by myself. I think collaborating and learning from others is great, and I don't ever plan to stop doing that. But being able to make decisions on your own was crucial. And I think that that mindset is what constantly reminded me that I needed to be ready to do that in however many months it was until graduation. We've made it to year 5, the past year of the podcast. I would assume that most of you listening have been listening for at least 6 months to a year, probably based on like the analytics. So you've probably listened for this whole past April to April of the podcast, but this was finishing off D4, graduating, and then my first 10 months now of practicing as a dentist. So a popular episode from this time period was number 210, Debunking Dental School Myths and Expectations. So that's kind of a fun, more spicy, tea-filled episode if you haven't listened to that one. And then a helpful episode if you're in the time period as a fourth-year student or even a third year just thinking ahead to next year, but wanting to figure out like what disability insurance is all about. I know it's not a super glamorous topic, but episode 215 that I did around this time last year with Jim Kachmar is going to be really helpful about disability insurance. An underrated episode, number 217, I recorded with a dentist here in Michigan from his perspective as an owner about how associates can be successful, or like what advice he has for dental associates from the perspective of an owner. So I thought that was really interesting because a lot of times I'm having associates on to kind of talk together about our experiences as new dentists. And I've also had owners on that just talk about like their life as an owner dentist, but I don't often ask advice for associates from their perspective. So that was 217, and I think it's a very interesting one. The last one I want to highlight as underrated episodes. Oh wait, I have 2 more. Sorry, not sorry, but 227 is Dr. Connie Wang. She's an associate dentist in Boston, and we talked about the highs and lows kind of working as a new grad. So that's exactly what I said. A lot of times I'll have fellow young dentists and we kind of go back and forth talking about life as a new grad to give you an insight on what that's like and maybe help you learn from any mistakes that we've had or help you feel less alone for anything you're struggling through. So that was 227. And the last one that was pretty recent, episode 245 with Dr. Rachel Shaw. And this is something just very fresh on my mind as I'm getting married this year and eventually we're going to start having a family, because we talked about maternity leave and she is a practice owner. So we talked about the process of having babies, being at times she was a single practice owner, and then she has 3 kids now. So what all of those different experiences were like as a dentist, having all of those children and working as a practice owner. And I just think people don't talk a lot about that. And I didn't even realize till probably like partway through my first year of dental school that you don't get maternity leave as a dentist, like paid maternity leave, I guess I should say. So that's always an interesting topic to see how people navigate that. So the memory milestone of this past year would of course be graduating, right? And I also got engaged. So 2 big life things happening at once. And just starting my honestly a dream job, working as a dentist. I truly, truly love my office. The team there is just incredible. The doctors I get to work with are excellent, and I learned so much in all different regards to being a dentist, clinical, non-clinical. And I am so truly grateful that my first job is a great one, and it might be my forever job, you know? So not everyone can say that. So that's just truly like the biggest thing that sticks out from this past year is just so much gratitude and happiness and fun from having this job that I love so much. So the main takeaway from all that is take your time to be precise and make well-thought decisions when it comes to your next steps, whatever that means for you, wherever you're at in life, for trying to build that dream life. Be practical, be honest, and make decisions that will make your long-term self happy, whatever that means for you. I'm going to keep it very vague in that regard. So I hope you all enjoyed this episode of the podcast, and please make sure you head over to Instagram to enter the giveaway, because I'm literally doing this for you all, the true podcast listeners. So I want the people that actually listen to enter, not only people that follow on Instagram and listen sometimes. So please go over there and listen. And if for some reason you don't have an Instagram or something, like send me an email. And if I recognize you from listening, I will certainly enter you into the giveaway. So thank you all so much for all of the years of support. It's been incredible. And I'm looking forward to many great years of the podcast ahead and seeing what's in store for us in the future.